very gently. I would say I almost never offend the partners of a couple. They feel really comfortable with me just about all the time.
Okay, so let's assume that the answer to both of those two very important questions you just pointed out were yes.
Right.
What are some of the common things that are screwed up after that?
You know something? Let's look at a very first date. I'll really simplify this. Let's look at the couple's on a first date. They feel those kind of sparkly in love feelings, and they're attracted to each other. And when the waitress shows up, 3 or 4 minutes later to the table with something, and the man gets frustrated and shows his frustration and even says something a little negative about the woman, that's a lot of information about how he perceives people, okay? So what happens for the woman that he's on the date with? She just saw him put down a waitress. She saw him get frustrated at something very simple. She was 3 or 4 minutes later than he wanted his ketchup, right? And here's what happens. She feels that she likes this guy a lot. She feels that there could be something here. There is no way she's going to say the truth about what just happened for her, right? There is absolutely no way she's going to say, that was a little rude in how you just talked about that woman. And it makes me a little nervous in how you might one day talk about me. So is she going to say that? Not a chance, okay? So guess what happens on that very first date? An unspoken rule between them happens, right? It's like an unsigned contract that they both decide on, right? I'm not going to tell you the truth as long as you still love me. And once that happens, it builds from there. Time goes on and more serious things happen. They have children, they have a mortgage, they have serious life decisions. And by the time they get to me, sometimes the kids are going off to college and they realize they've been fighting and arguing for, 18 years. And they have to start communicating from scratch, and the man has to say, I feel pressured by you all the time and I've never told you that. And the woman has to say, I feel that I can never spend time with you and you're always doing your other projects, or whatever it is. They have to start from scratch telling each other the truth.
Okay, so you've been doing this for a long time, so I'm very fascinated to know, what is the most horrific first session there, right? The most horrific, it was basically about to be over.
Right.
And it transformed through these sessions. And when you guys all looked back, you as well as the couple, you said, whoa, wow, I would have never thought they would have actually been able to make it. Do you have any of those?
Yeah, I have one right now. So,
okay.
A couple came to me and he's married and he but he's been kind of separated from in his mind for a couple years, and he met this woman a couple years ago and they've been dating, and they were locked in what I would call it a war, an emotional war. She's not going to feel safe unless he gets divorced, and he's not going to feel safe to be himself until she lets go of pressuring him to get divorced. He does want to get divorced eventually, but on his own terms, not from the pressure of his girlfriend. And they are locked. I mean, they are so uncomfortable that they have to hide that they're dating each other, even because the woman's friends and family have all just finally condemned her for being with a married man who won't leave his wife, right? Because they want to protect her. Okay, so they're locked in this war together, but they are deeply, deeply in love underneath it all. So I'm sitting there with this couple going, how am I going to get underneath this? Because I cannot slow communication down enough. Okay. So we are on maybe session number 7 together. And the woman cannot get a hold of him enough, meaning he's not available enough. And she doesn't, every time they hang out, she can't feel like she has a real relationship where she can make plans and share with him and share him with her family. She just can't get a hold of him enough. And so I'm sitting there and I just realized, I'm either going to have to tell this couple they need to stop and they just need to go away and break up, or something else needs to happen. And I was really racking my brain for an hour and a half into this session. And I came up with something that was a brand new concept for me. I thought of it. I actually talked about it the day before with somebody, but then it really solidified in my mind. So I said to them, why don't you move in together for 1 week? Why don't you move in together for 7 days? They have enough flexibility to do that because she's been wanting to, give him a dresser drawer and wanting his clothes at her house and wanting to just know what it would be like to have a real relationship. So they were either going to be offended or excited, and they got really excited about this. And I believe the next day he moved in with her. He brought all his clothes. He brought a suitcase. She gave him drawer space, and they spent 7 days together. So she finally had what she wanted. She knew what it would be like to wake up with him and, and know that she's going to get to have this for a week, right? Now, at the end of the 7 days, it kind of imploded and they got into some really big arguments. But then a couple weeks later, they came back to see me. And it's very interesting. She's entirely calmed down now. She actually isn't asking him to move in permanently. She actually is asking him to integrate into her life. She knows, she feels safe enough and knows he's committed enough to where she actually wants to step him into her life. She's able to now give him the space to divorce at his own pace. And they're not working this out like usual, like couples usually do, where I slow down the communication and I teach them how to get vulnerable about their feelings. They're actually succeeding because they went underneath and did this one behavior of moving in together for a week. And in the last session they were in with me, for the last half hour, she was actually sitting on the floor in his arms. So they both looked at me and they said, well, how about that? They asked me some question about what to do next. And I said, it doesn't really matter the answer that I'm going to give because you're sitting on the floor in his arms, right? You now feel safe and they're going to move forward. They're going to succeed. And for all intents and purposes, they normally would not have succeeded. That most therapists, counselors, coaches would not have known what the heck to do in this scenario. I believe that. They would have looked at the communication and the arguing and said, I can't help eventually. So, yeah.
Understanding.
Understand. Understand. People get it. People actually go to the wrong site a lot. It's understand each other.
Okay, understandeachother.com. We're here with Derek Hart. And Derek, I know one of the things that probably come up in your sessions are jealousy.
Right.
How big is jealousy in the success or failure of our relationships? Yeah.
That scenario.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yep.
That scenario of back to the idea of the first date in the restaurant that wasn't going well. it actually starts there, what their communication is. You know, jealousy is something that is just another topic to communicate about. And it seems like it's a really big one. And the reason it's a really big one is that couples don't know how to talk about it. You know, the truth is, it's so personal and so sensitive on both sides when jealousy happens that it's simply hard to talk about. It's very hard to look at your partner and say, you know, when we were at this, when we were at this party tonight, I saw you interacting. She says it to her husband. You know, I saw you interacting with this other woman, and because of our relationship lately being a little bit difficult, I saw you interacting and flirting with her, and it made me sad because I haven't felt in a long time that you look at me that way. And I don't want to say this to put you down or make you feel like you're doing anything wrong, but I just need you to know that that hurt, and can we talk about this, because I know it's a difficult topic, right? Just saying something real about it, because I don't care how great your relationship is, jealousy happens, right? And then now let's say she was saying this to her husband and he heard it. That's a great moment for him to either be defensive or not. Because what's he going to say at that point, right? He's going to say, I wasn't doing anything. I was just talking to her. You know, what's your problem? You're so jealous, right? Like, I'm there for you. And that is the beginning of an argument. And actually what's really unfortunate is when the couple is not honest about understanding they need to talk more about this, because he'll get defensive and then she'll roll her eyes. And then I will tell you that is a ticking time bomb that will destroy the relationship later. It might take 20 years, but if that kind of communication cannot happen, a couple will have longevity, maybe, but they will not thrive and go deeper and enjoy each other.
Wow. You said a word, flirt.
Yeah.
What is that? Fair play in a relationship or not?
Oh, I'll tell you, that is one of those areas where it takes every couple to organize what's okay and what's not. I'm in Northern California, which is particularly liberal about these topics. And, I work with couples that call themselves polyamorous, which is kind of a fancy word for free love from the 60s. Where I know it's going on around the country a lot, but here it's unbelievable. I mean, I sometimes have 3 people in here that are all in a relationship, and we work out the ins and outs of that. It's kind of mind-boggling sometimes. But, flirting, it's so sensitive that it always comes back to the couple. When something happens where someone's feelings are hurt, can it get talked about? Okay. So, for some couples, a man having lunch once a week with a colleague that's a woman, there's no rule about that being a problem. But the truth is, the man knows if he's getting needs met by, this woman, and if he's getting some actual, sometimes romantic needs met, and he can't open up and talk to his wife as intimately as he does with this coworker. That's such a subtle thing, and you might say, well, the wife doesn't know, so it won't hurt her. But you know what? Underneath the relationship, it means there's a lie. There's some kind of lie about them not being each other's best friends, which is a great goal to have. Being that open with your partner.
So basically, flirting, does it depend on the relationship?
It depends on the level of safety of the relationship. It depends on if they can talk about it.